Hey everyone, welcome back to another Anime Kingdom review. See by the title below, yes, this is on episode 7 of SukaSuka, and this episode, I mean, it was a pretty damn good episode. It wasn't anything crazy happening, like obviously the last episode where we almost had a, almost at a death pretty much. But this episode, we got a lot of interesting things going on in this one. A lot of things literally just like, what's going to happen to, these certain characters, and we were introduced to 2 new characters as well, being the fact that, you always assume that the only 3 battle ready fairies were, of course, Kotori, Aithea, and Ren. And then of course Tiat also was finally going to be, once she got her weapon, she would be one of them as well. Turns out there's actually 2 others, and they are part of like a survey team, I guess, that goes onto the planet's surface, to which I gotta say, you gotta be crazy to go ahead and take that job. And of course it also shows Grick again. It was pretty cool to see him. But yeah, it was pretty interesting of an episode to see these 2 new characters. I'm not too sure when they are going to be, introduced to Willem and the rest of them and everything. But it's kind of weird, like, why is these 2 being told to go on these missions to go on top, go on the surface, while Kotori, Aithea, and Ren are just pretty much on like island defense control kind of thing, I don't really understand, like, are they supposed to be like 10 times better? That one girl seemed to be really damn strong, I gotta say, at the very end when that thing was coming at them and everyone was panicking. The idiots started the damn ship, which of course they're attracted to sound and stuff, so the thing started rushing at it, destroying the damn bridge and everything, and then she just comes out of nowhere, slash, 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 and I was just like, oh, okay, so I mean that yeah, she's badass. We didn't get to see the other girl's skills, but it was still cool to be introduced to these characters, and see pretty much at the beginning, like, I'm not too sure if this is like pertaining to something in the future, but the girl was reading a book, and it was of course in, I don't know, some language, some human language. Didn't look like any human language that I knew of, but it pretty much was like, I was like, is she reading it correctly? Because I don't know. Like, she said it was like a fairy tale of some sorts, but they were talking about like visitors, and pretty much they created humans, and that was like the one biggest mistake ever. And because of that, humans created beasts. So it kind of looked like that is the truth of everything. But that would mean, like, who the hell are these visitors and stuff like that, Like, I still don't really know if that's a real thing, like, going to be shown later on. It could just be a damn story that she's reading, but it would just make sense. Like, why would they bring that up, of her reading this story? It just seems like that is something else that may happen in the future, where they start to question why, humans were created, why did they create these beasts and everything. Because there was the whole thing with the 18 beasts. I always forget, honestly, how much, like, of those major super strong beasts that they talked about, they were created by humans, and there's like some whole story going on behind them, and this may be the real story behind it and everything, and why humans were, ended up being completely annihilated, besides of course Willem. And the only reason for that is obviously he was pretty much Captain America, and instead of being frozen, he was, he was petrified into stone. That was pretty much, and they brought him back. That was the only reason that he's still alive and he's human. And like we saw before, he's barely really living at all, honestly, since his body's pretty much like inside is practically destroyed. So yeah, like I'm really interested in more of learning the history of what happened to humanity and everything. Why were these beasts created in the first place? And still, it's still kind of weird, because I don't even know what these other, like, are these other species, did they come later, or they always live with the humans and everything? Everyone obviously seems to hate the humans. Humans seem to have created these beasts. So like, it's always kind of an enigma, and I've always been wondering more and more about the history of it, all that, and hopefully they do show more of it. Obviously they've been showing flashbacks and everything with Willem, and he kind of explains it in these flashbacks. Like, not he explains it, but it shows certain things that happened in the past. So hopefully we do get more of that, because I am pretty interested in that history. But the other big thing in this episode, to which obviously is on Kotori, we were wondering, what was the consequences of her coming back to life, pretty much, because she went into a coma. One of the things is she's starting to get some red hair. And this is where I was like, holy shit, this is connecting to what was shown at the very beginning of the entire season. And that's where I kind of thought, like, man, I was scared she was gonna die, but I forgot that part even happened. And like, obviously it wasn't shown anywhere that she, ended up going with red hair. Like, she had blue hair, she only had like red hair right over here or something. So later on, so I should have known that she wasn't gonna die. It was more of like, holy shit, is it possible? And even if it could have been she died and came back or something along those lines. But it turns out her hair is starting to turn red. And the second thing that matches up with what was shown at the very end, with her having fully red hair, is the fact that when she was getting tested by Nagato, she pretty much was shown that she is no longer a leprechaun. So she's no longer a fairy soldier at the moment. Of course, they could still send her out, but it turns out we don't really know fully yet. Naglato is still trying to test things out and stuff. We haven't seen her use her weapon yet, so we don't fully know, but she is literally no longer a leprechaun. And when we learned about leprechauns in the last episode, it's pretty much they are the spirits of, dead children, pretty much. And we saw her talking to her, I guess, past self pretty much when she was a child, and then she came back to life, and now she's getting some red hair. And I'm thinking, now that she's no longer a leprechaun, somehow, I'm not too sure how the hell it happened. Maybe you can go ahead and say it was love, obviously, for Willem and stuff, but I think she's turning human. And before you start saying, well, what makes you think it's human? There's no other species besides the leprechauns that, they look like humans. They're all like lizard people or dog people or any other kind of animal species kind of thing. There's no human like creatures that we've seen so far, and we know that they are of dead children, and it would make sense that, since I think that's why they said that the leprechauns are the only people, because they're the closest to being humans, that they can use the dug weapons and everything. It would make sense that somehow, I'm not too sure how it's happening, but she's actually turning back into human. She's turning back into her former self somehow. And I'm not too sure if there's any consequences, like she will still die or anything along those lines. But I was like, holy shit, that's pretty crazy. Like, is she slowly gonna start to lose her memories as well? That could be another thing where she starts to lose her current memories, and she gets the other memories, of her past self. That's the whole point of what happens to them, why they go crazy and go in a coma and everything, is that their memories are clashing. So I'm not too sure if one memory, of her past self is going to start to overwrite her current memories, or they're going to somehow have a fusion and she's going to be different. I'm not too sure. Like, the very ending of the whole, the beginning of the first episode and everything, it was kind of gloomy. It kind of looked like she was going to sacrifice herself along those lines. She was crying, and I'm not too sure what's going to happen there. That's one thing. It makes it so hard for these moments. Like, for example, in this episode, when you see her eating the cake that Willa made and everything, and it was such a touching moment. Of course, they bring in that soundtrack again, because literally every time they do, I start to tear up. I'm like, oh my gosh, the feels train has hit everyone once again, and you get all happy. You see these nice moments with her and everything. Like, she got to fulfill her promise and she was able to get back. He says welcome home. She says, glad to be back and everything, and hugs him and everything. And it's such a touching moment that you see these moments and you see her talking about how she's going to maybe she's going to starting to do more housework and stuff, so that she could end up marrying him later on, since later on, yes, he is going to he's on a contract right now, so maybe he will end up leaving. Probably not, honestly, as you can see how he is already with these girls. He's kind of like their father pretty much. And it's just it's so sad, because you see her having these like hopes and dreams of being with him and everything, being married to him, having a family. And you see we already know that something happens at the very end of this, where we saw at the beginning of the season, where it may end up going bad. And we know that, like, what's it called, when she was in that coma and everything, that the girl said things were going to get worse. They were going to, it was going to be harsh. There's going to be hard moments for her in the future if she does decide to go with it, to which she does. So honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm like still on the edge. Like, the show does a great job of making you feel happy at one moment, like, oh yes, they're alive, or oh, such a cute moment, but always knowing in the back of your head, like, that soundtrack is a great way to make it seem like a happy kind of ending, like a happy things going on and stuff, like for those feelsy moments. but then you have these moments where it does a great job at making you feel like, oh my gosh, but we still don't know what's gonna happen. It could still go bad. She could still die. Anyone could still die, honestly. And that is one of the reasons I love this anime, is that it just literally plays, just pulls on those heartstrings like full on, and just like the feels train. First episode I saw, I knew it was gonna be a feels train ride, and I'm enjoying it so far. But like always, I still am scared to what's gonna come. I'm really hoping that somehow, they end up being a happy ending. They get to be together and everything. Everyone hopes for that happy ending, but there's a high chance, considering what we saw at the very beginning and how things are going, that it will not be a happy ending. But who knows, honestly, like I keep saying, you never know with this, and hopefully it goes good, and hopefully it doesn't go bad, but we just gotta wait and see, honestly. This is episode 7. There are 12 episodes. I'm not too sure if there's gonna be a second season at all either. So that's another thing. Like, I'm kind of confused. Is like, are they going to be ending it in this season? That will be another big thing that we have to wait for and stuff. But overall, obviously, besides all that kind of stuff, like I said before at the very beginning, the big part was, of course, introduction of these two girls. And obviously, Willem is trying to use his, strings at his pretty much get Kotori to not have to go by using his, being friends with the mage and everything. I forget what his name was, but I'm not too sure how it's going to end up going, since they need to have a team of 3, I guess. But those two girls are on the surface, so I'm not too sure how that connects to everyone else as well. Will he have to go to the surface? Will they come to him? I'm not too sure. Hopefully we see that in the next coming episodes. We probably will, and hopefully it's pretty damn exciting, because so far, I need an exciting episode. But right now, after this episode, it was nice, it was cute, it was, it hit you in the feels really hard and stuff. But the very ending just gave me like, oh man, I want to see some crazy shit happen. It's like crazy. It's like a love-hate relationship. Like, I love it when it's crazy, but when it goes crazy, something bad happens. So it's like, oh, I want some cool stuff, but I don't want anyone to die, Oh man, honestly, I am loving this anime so far, and hopefully it just continues to be as good as as it's been so far. And yeah, that's all I gotta say, guys. Hope you enjoyed this Anime Kingdom review. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. If there's anything I missed and you want to talk about, comment below as well. And if you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe for more content. And as always, guys, I want to hear your thoughts, anime watchers only. How do you feel about this episode? What do you think about the things that I talked about? Opinions, anything you want to say, good or bad, feel free to comment below. And source material readers, how did you guys feel about this episode? How was it adapted? Obviously, no spoilers, but yeah, feel free to comment your thoughts anywhere there. If you do want to hit, put a spoiler, like I've been saying in my other videos, then do, of course, the whole 4-line thing. I think it's 4 lines, and then put, spoilers for blah, blah, blah. So you have to click read more, and then, of course, the read more will be the spoilers. So you don't spoil any of the anime watchers only, including myself, unless I really want to be spoiled, to which sometimes it really is hard for me not to spoil myself, but I will hold off. If you want to talk to other people about it in my comment section, just please do that spoiler, spoiler tag thing, so no one will, of course, be spoiled by it, because no one likes to be spoiled. Definitely not me, unless I choose to be. But even then, it's like, oh, why did I do that to myself? But yeah, that's all I gotta say, guys. So till next time, see ya.